If you could just mute as you come in, please. You can see there's a couple of people unmuted. It's right down the bottom of your screen. You'll see a little microphone button. You can just tap on that and that will mute you. Yeah, awesome. We were just saying it's a funny thing because after the last month's amazing call with Warren, we were kind of like, oh, you know, are we going to have anything to talk about next month? And I don't know about you all, but I kind of feel like the world's turned to hell in a handbasket in a very short time. And I was thinking, you know, it's really interesting because there's been so much going on, and we're going to leave, you know, we're going to chat with Warren about all of it. What does it mean? How do we handle it? And I'm sure that you have noticed too, there seems to be like 3 types of people in the world right now. And you'll probably see that you're one of these. So there's the, I'm just going to bury my head in the sand and really not pay too much attention to this. It's not happening. I'm just going to ignore all the noise, you know, like there's that person. The other type of person is I'm so anxious about everything, I actually can't even think straight. And I'm completely paralyzed because it's just, I'm so worried. I'm so like the future's screwed anyway. So what's the point of doing anything? So I might as well just do nothing. There's that type of person. And then there's the other person who is all of you on this call and who are, you know what, let's just have an adult conversation about it. And let's just figure out what it all really means. And let's just figure out what can we do to best manage this situation, to prepare for what, you know, might be coming. And what is there really no point us getting all our knickers in and not over because, you know, we actually have no ability whatsoever to control it. So that's really the point of this call, is to chat with Warren about what is going on in the world, what does it really mean, but actually what can we do? And a lot of this stuff is they're warning, they're lights, they're flashing lights, right? They're warning signs, and they're giving us little taps to say, hey, if this happens, are you ready? If this happens, have you prepared in a way that you're going to be okay? Because some people haven't, and the bury their head in the sand people, group 1, and the I'm so anxious, I just don't know what to do, I'm just like sitting here freaking out people, type 2, they're the ones that are going to find themselves in a pickle in the next little while, right? And those of us who go, well, this is shit, but hey, life gets shitty sometimes. We're going to have an adult conversation. We're going to figure out what are we going to do? How are we going to plan? How are we going to prepare? What is the best action to take? Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's not the most fun thing, we're going to do that. We'll be the ones who will be okay. We'll be the ones who will actually not only survive a world that seems quite chaotic, but actually be able to thrive in a world that seems quite chaotic. Because yes, there's a lot going wrong right now, but when a lot goes wrong, that's the time that a lot of opportunities really are created. So Nick, did you want to add anything to that before we bring Warren on?
No, not much to add at all, Jen. I think, you know, just from our conversation, and I know Warren will, you know, give us his perspective on some things, like you said, with what matters, with what to put to the side and not put our energy and time into that we can't control. And we spoke a bit about that last month. But really the key message, and I think we need to be listening for, the conversations that we all need to be having, the solutions that we need to be seeking, is how prepared am I? And not from, I think what I want to say is not from a fear-based way, you know, not from a noisy, fear reactive way. I know for me personally, and maybe think about this for yourself, is when the world goes, you know, circus, shit show, whatever it does next, right? There's always something that it will do. How do I want to be in that situation? And I know for me, words like steady, stability, intentional, grounded, supported, that's me. That's how I want to be. That's how I want my life to be when everything around me might be a bit crazy and chaotic. So if I want to be that way, then what do I need to put in place in different areas of my life to support me? And maybe we can talk a little bit about that as well, like some practical steps. Like we're on such a great conversation this morning with one of our partner projects, which is the Grow Project, and it's a global project. And for me, I'm like this, that in itself is something that is very practical that every single woman on here should be involved with for yourself and for your family, and so make sure that we give you more access and more education to projects like that to help from a practical point of view. When the world is chaotic, how do you become steady? And I think I just wanted to share that these conversations as we do the monthly wrap up, never want them to be fear-based, because something that I've learned is I think every 5 to 10 years, like the world comes at us with something big. There'll be something again in another 5 years, right? The question is, are we prepared? And the point is, to be sovereign, you don't wait for shit to hit to become sovereign. You've got to build sovereignty first, It's like having a spare tire in the car. There's a spare tire in the car for a point. You don't get the spare tire after you break down and go to the shop and try and figure it out. It's like you've already got it in the vehicle. And so think of that for our life. What do we need in our vehicle of life to be sovereign, to be supported, to be steady when the world is a bit crazy? So sorry, a little bit of a sidetrack there, but Warren, would love for you to kick us off. And I think maybe just zoom out, like as Jen said, we were thinking, oh, what should we talk about this month or, next month being now, and getting excited about coming up with ideas. And then, the world just keeps giving us something. And we all know what it is, the war, and we don't need to go into the politics of it. Maybe, Warren, you have some perspective on that. I definitely can't speak to that and don't want to. It's more about what does it mean? From a zoom out perspective, what can it look like from a short term, worst case, to a long term? And what can we do in the meantime? I know here in Australia, and I'm sure it's many places, there is not just talk, there's the reality of shortages of supply of fuel. So, there's going to be shortages and the impact of that on our food, on our supply, because we look at global supply chains, on our pocket because of that. So it'll be shortage of supply, which means shock of price. There's a lot of things that can unfold. But Warren, if you want to share with us your brilliant mind and all your research and perspective on this, just from a zoom out perspective, and then how do we prepare? What does preparation actually look like? I think we can go there.
Yes, I heard everything. Excuse me if I'm in PTSD, nervous, I'll disappear again. But basically, my comments on the whole thing. Yeah, look, I tend to research things, as you know, and look at things as they are and look from a broader perspective, because I think what happens is that we tend to look at things in our immediate situation like it's never happened before. And an example is that I've had a long argument with my kids recently, and it was literally over a very male kind of thing that will make women laugh. But it was on who was the greatest basketball player of all time. And literally we just hit a stalemate because they were adamant, but no, well, Jordan was great, but we think LeBron is as good as not better. And I kept saying to him, I said, the problem you've got is you're living in present day bias. I said, you've never seen Jordan play. You've heard about him, whereas I've seen both. But in the end, so people tend to think you're very right. So like in COVID, it's like people are saying like, we've never seen anything like this before, which wasn't actually true. In 1976, there was swine flu 6-month vaccine mandates. In 1918, there was there were vaccine mandates. The bubonic plague was miles worse. There were lockdowns. There were all kinds of shit going on. And so I remember saying at the time, the worst of the vaccine mandates are unlikely to go more than 6 to 9 months based on history, which is pretty much what happened, except in Victoria. And so have we had fuel shortages and shit like this happen before? And again, the answer is yes. Basically, in the 1970s, I don't know if any of you are around who remember that, but I was a kid, but there were all kinds of issues with fuel. They had to have fuel restrictions and all that kind of stuff. And the problem is, I mean, and Robert Kiyosaki, if you actually go onto his Facebook page, He's been giving some really good daily updates on the war, but are very factual, but not so much opinion. They're what's actually happening. And reading it today, kind of like, wow, it's really interesting because he's saying we're probably at one of the most critical places that we've been for a while. And he talks about his own story of being in the Vietnam War and how he said war is just awful because he said all that happens is that big corporations get very rich. And basically shit like this happens. And he said, if this keeps going, you are going to see a big energy crisis. And he said, even worse, he said, there's probably going to be a lot of deaths in the Middle East because he said, what Iran are now threatening if America keeps going is to destroy water supplies all through the Middle East, which will pretty much mean major cities being evacuated, all kinds of stuff. So it's a serious situation. And you know me, I tend to like putting things balanced, but it's a bit like knowing you got cancer and you're told you got 4 weeks to live and you sit there thinking, now I'll be fine. You got two choices, and one is just kind of live out and enjoy your last days or take some action. And it is a serious situation because it's a critical crossroads. And as he said, either Iran and Trump are going to come up with a deal. And if that happens, things will probably get a lot better because what will happen is Iran will kind of be forced to bow to the US dollar and that sort of stuff. The Strait of Hormuz will open up. And remembering that Trump is primarily a deal maker, you'll probably find energy will improve, supplies will improve, everything will actually overall improve from it, and the war will quieten down. But if this keeps going, and of course, as we know in Australia, basically we tend to take things to an extreme. Yeah, look, he even mentions Australia specifically and what's going on over there. In Australia, I actually went into ChatGPT and did a whole lot of AI searches to back up my own research on fuel and pretty much concluded what I'd done. We've got a toilet paper scenario at the moment. There's no problem with fuel. Ships are coming in, but people are panic buying. And this is an example of where the government should intervene, for example. This is where the government should actually go, should have gone straight away, okay, guys, you're not going to turn up with a trailer like what's happening in many and basically fill up the trailer and leave everyone else without fuel. That's bullshit. As of instantly now, temporary emergency order, no one is allowed to buy any more fuel other than basically to fill up your car, and any spare needs a special exemption. Now, it's one time, but there should have been a mandate. So basically, they were giving mandates when they weren't needed in COVID, and now when there should be a mandate, which would have literally solved this problem, and everyone would have had fuel and gone on as normal. And what's been the government's approach? Oh, we're going to hit service stations really hard to increase the price. And it's like, for goodness sake, I mean, number one, you got to enforce it. Number two, what else are service stations supposed to do when they're running out of fuel, if you know what I mean? So it's unbelievably badly handled, which can only mean either we've got complete and utter lunatics running the government, sorry to be so blunt on this, or there really is something bigger going on in the agenda. Either way, you can't basically control, so what it tells me is the best thing to do is to see things as it really are and realize it is a serious situation. And what does that mean? Does it mean panic, get a Faraday cage, run to the mountain or that? No, it just means, I'll tell you exactly what I actually told my team today. Very similar to what happened during COVID 6 years ago, early in COVID, when I got them all together and told them what I thought would happen. And unfortunately, I was right. I said where I thought I saw it going, and I said, hopefully I'm wrong. But I said, just in case I'm right, this is what everyone should be doing with COVID. They'll probably lock down borders. They're going to do this and do that. So it's, look, will the world end and fall apart? No. These things have happened before. We've had wars before. We've had fuel things. Do these things cause temporary problems? They certainly do. Are we better off being in Australia and down south than up north? Well, yeah, I'd say so because, or in America or in Australia, because by and large, it's not going to be most likely where the worst of the bombings or anything goes on. I would certainly not want to be in the Middle East right now or even parts of Europe close to all that. It seems like Iran are fighting back very, very hard because they know what US are trying to do, which is basically, as I see it, Trump is trying to bring Iran under the US system. Why? I'd love to sit there and tell you why, and I honestly answer is I don't really know. I think it's either a very good scenario where he's actually seeing some real problems, which he's trying to stop, or else he's kind of got some bad advice from his yes people, got to his head after his success in Venezuela and thought he could just blow Iran out the park kill their leader and go on with life. And he soon discovered that Iranians and Afghans don't do that so easily. Unfortunately, I'm more inclined to believe the latter than the former, but I hope I'm wrong.
The thing,
Yeah.
Warren,
Well, I
the
think-
thing is with either of those scenarios, right, is it doesn't really matter to us because
No, it's just what it means,
what-
Jenbo, is people do need to take protective action in some form, whether it
Yeah.
comes to your money, working out worst case scenarios and hoping it doesn't happen. Like for me, I'll give you an example of what I've done that might help people. I'm actually in a really good place because I just said what I'm going to do. I'm flying back to Australia reluctantly this weekend to sort some matters out. I'm going to wait until after Easter myself. If I see it's still not sorted by after Easter, I'm personally going to come to Bali because I think if we hit mid-April and end of April and it's still going on, by then fuel won't be coming in as much from the overseas. I think we will start to hit a genuine fuel crisis by May, and which will affect everything from supply chains to food supplies to cost of living in Australia, whereas Bali doesn't have anywhere near those problems. So I'm going to be doing that as a plan B. So I'm kind of acting myself pretty quickly, but I'm going to come back because it's possible it could sort out in the next 2 weeks. And I think we'll know by 2 or 3 weeks from now, it's either going to be sorted and a deal is going to be made and things will be back to normal, or it'll keep going on and then it will start to hit. So so the main thing for people to do is just, number one, if you're going to stay in Australia, that's fine. And if I was going to stay in Australia, like some of my kids, I would more just be having options to organise your driving a bit better in case you can't get fuel. Like, in other words, booking your appointments, that, enjoying getting around on a bike or, things like that. Or if you've got a motorbike, using that. And with your assets and your wealth, just basically making sure that you're being very safe with your money right now and protecting it. Look, and apart from that, just enjoy life, but just simplify your life for now and wait out the next few weeks is probably my biggest comment. And I mean, sorry for that big waffle, Jen and Nicole. I just kind of, yeah.
Warren, it's good. And I think like if we can zoom out and I think obviously the situation is all this shit's happening. We don't know really why it's happening. We don't really know what's going to happen. But as you said,
The world will go on.
6 years ago, we had the shit happen. Like, as Nick said at the beginning of the call, like the facts are that shit is going to keep happening. The only question then becomes is, will we be prepared to weather whatever storm comes, or will we not? And so,
yes.
And some people will. Some people are already incredibly well prepared, and some people tell themselves the story over and over. Oh, that won't happen here. Oh, that won't happen to us. Oh, if it happens, then I'll worry about it. Well, that's like trying to get car insurance after you crash the car. Like,
yes.
You be prepared, hoping you never have to use everything you put in place for that preparation, right? So I guess the next question then becomes, so some people on this call I know are already in preparation is in progress. They're either prepared or preparation is in progress. For those people on the call who are feeling like, oh shit, like I, for whatever reason, am in a very unprepared state right now, what would you suggest would be, apart from breathe out, calm down so you can actually think straight, get rid of the cortisol in your body for a moment, what would be some steps that would be really wise to start taking for someone who's not, who maybe has a job with a big corporation that relies on fuel, that might need to start putting people off, or, I don't know, has a massive mortgage, interest rates are going up again, there's no doubt, like, one thing I see, and I'm sure everyone will agree with this, when our governments have a chance to make more rules temporarily, those rules don't really remain very temporary. If they have a chance to increase tax temporarily, they don't take that tax away again. They use these things as an opportunity to have more and more control. And if you're sitting here feeling like, I don't like all these rules. I don't like this increasing amount of control that the government seems to want to have. Then that's your signal to prepare, because you don't have to be controlled. It's not just, we don't have to just go with the flow that they want us to, right? We get to choose exactly how we live our life. That's what being sovereign is. A sovereign is making sure we have enough resources so that we always have choice. Like Warren's gone, well, I'm just going to go to Bali if I need to. Awesome. Like, what's your plan? And if you go, well, I don't have enough money to be able to make the choice I want to make. Okay, great indicator. So let's change that situation. That would be the first step. So Warren, I guess what I'm asking is, what would be some steps that you can see?
Yeah, look, it's a hard look. I'll answer it. It's okay. Let me give a metaphor. I always like to talk in stories, Jen, that relate to different scenarios and then relate to this. So about 6 months ago, I started getting unexpected health challenges. I injured myself on my bike. I was having bloated stomach. I was having difficulty to put off weight. I was getting infections all the time. And I kind of was like frustrated. Now, keeping in mind, I lived the last year almost eating what I liked and being in amazing health, doing what I wanted. And to cut a long story short, eventually I realized at the start of this year that, you know, life is like seasonal. Things change, you know, like it's hot, then it gets, autumn happens and leaves fall off trees. Winter comes and everything's dead for a while. Spring happens and things revive. Summer happens and everything that could go right can go right, you know. And we've all had these seasons, and all kinds of studies from Forbes magazine show that's how it works for individuals and companies. So I eventually accepted. I thought, look, I'm going to accept that for whatever reason. I'm in a bit of a pruning season and I'm going to run with it. So I cleaned up my life. I've been eating super clean. I've lost 4 or 5 kilos, had the flattest stomach, in the best health I've been since I can remember. But it's been disciplined eating, disciplined training, disciplined stuff, and doing hard stuff, training, going for long walks in hot, sweaty weather I didn't feel like doing. To the point now I've got so fit, I did an hour's really hard ab Pilates workout, didn't even feel like I'd done a workout, so went and did another one. And the point I'm saying is that I took a lot of hard steps to build a foundation to get myself back. And I think what we tend to do as humans, and I'm guilty just as anyone, is we leave things rather than be predictive in what we're seeing as can potentially happen. And in this situation, the best thing you can do is hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And like COVID, more so than COVID, I think this could go really bad, personally. It's not, I say it reluctantly but I really do, but I think this could go really bad. So, and the best thing that people can do is number one, is decide, am I in a financial position or other position to move overseas? And keep in mind, it isn't always about money. I've got a friend over here right now who's from my dance group who literally is as broke as fuck. Like, he's got less money than anyone you'll ever meet. He's barely got enough savings. And he said to me, it's way cheaper to live in Bali than that. He hires a motorbike for like $200 or $180 a month he's negotiated. He lives in Airbnbs for very little. He eats quite well. And he's told me he probably lives on about $2,000 a month Australian at the moment without any problem. $3,000 if he's living a good life. And so sometimes going overseas can actually be cheaper and simpler if you know what you're doing and look into it. So that's one option. Option two is, if you're going to stay in Australia, you know, accept the fact that for the next little while, there's a good chance that cost of living is going to soar. Restrictions will come in. Unfortunately, Australia goes extreme. Like when there was a jet ski injured someone, they basically banned jet skis all through the Swan River. And that's kind of what Australia does. There's a mole in the backyard, so they blow up your backyard and the neighbours just to be safe. That's kind of Australia's approach. So you can rest assured that based on history, but whatever Australia's going to do here is extreme. And bringing in a bit of conspiratorial kind of stuff, Australia seems to be a testing ground for global New World Order rollouts. So I think at the moment, there's a chance that's going on too. And if that's all happening, that's serious stuff. And definitely a time to reflect. I've been doing more reflecting when I start to feel scared, and I have my moments, believe you me. I just go out into nature. I go back to God, go back to my meaning, go back to my purpose, and I listen. And these days, what I've been doing it's been speaking to Divine Mother and say, my soul is awake, I'm listening. And it's all I say, I'm listening. Tell me what's right for me. And I was going to come back from Bali, for example, actually today in the evening, and I got a message, no, just wait here a few more days, come back then and just finalize some things here. I got very clearly to start setting up my plan B in Bali ready to go. I got that clearly when I did my own downloads for me. But and just to know, when I say for me, Grace is the same, but my oldest son, he got a clear download because he was over here, but his job was to stay in Australia for now, clear as a bell. So he's staying in Australia, but he said to me, look, I'm happy to stay more at home. I'm happy to ride a bike. I'll go out less. I'm fine with that. I'll just wait out the season like I did in COVID. So I would say more simplify your life for now. Get back to basics, number one. And with your money, definitely I would be a billionaire once said this to me. He said, in boom times, everyone gets fat. In recessions, everyone's forced to go lean. In other words, you simplify your life, you get back to basics, and at the same time, life doesn't stop. So for me and many people I've since, COVID was actually for me a life-changing time. I got a chance to rest, got a chance to settle. So this could be an amazing time for everyone. We're in an AI revolution. This could be a time when your incomes could soar. This could be a time when through Revo or Arlink or various businesses and that, this could be your turning point. This could be where you learn to use AI more. My computer blew up last week and I haven't had a computer for a week. That's why I had all these problems. And at first I was ready to lose my shit. And in the end, I thought, you know what? I've been forced to use more AI. I've been forced to use my staff more. And I've actually noticed my life's got more efficient. So the point is, whatever's going on, it's going to work out. But at the same time, don't live in a fantasy. Be positive that the overall outcomes is good, but that doesn't mean don't take wise actions with the following. So the following steps I would do, being practical, is number one, practical steps with your day-to-day life and living. Make sure you get routine, I would say to everyone. Routine with your health, routine with your eating, routine with your morning life. Get some strict routine because routine brings order, security, and stability. So whether it's a morning walk, 3 times a week at the gym, doing an aerobics class, having a dietary thing, home-cooked meals, kind of go back to some basics. If you've got an e-bike or if you've got a normal bike or whatever, start getting back to like it was 40 years ago when you can just enjoy being local. Number 3, do I want to consider moving overseas? If you have no interest, then don't. Just simplify your life. If you've been thinking about a plan B, then do it. Start to explore it. Get some advice. Move quickly. And number 4, and I can't give financial advice. I say this cautiously, but this is not a time to be speculating and going for a lot of growth of your assets. It's more about preservation, protection, and securing what you've got, and going back to basics. So I can tell you right now, I'm investing and securing my wealth more cautiously than I'm would probably shock you how cautious I'm being right now. And this is because I've got 3 clients who are billionaires or 100 millionaires. That's what they're all doing. So a good time to be safe, but a good time also to look for the opportunities. That's my summary. And basics, whatever you do.
Yeah, so good, Warren.
I mean, any questions or other comments you'd like? Or
Yeah, definitely, ladies. In the chat section, post any questions, any thoughts you have with this. I mean, these calls are just about really open conversation and helping us just get clarity. And I think this call, particularly practical steps. Warren, I think a couple of messages that I gained from you with that is, one, I love the idea of be positive, but be practically prepared, so we can live in this la la land of like, everything will work out and it's positive and I've got dreams and I've got all this. And yes, we should. But like anything, it needs to be backed up with, well, what structures do I need to put in place? What support do I need? What conversations and rooms and people do I need to be around to help actually create that? So it's this, let's stay in the positive, because one thing can't exist without the other, right? We always say, and we have these conversations in our programs, is that problems are a good thing, because if they didn't exist in the world, we can't provide solutions. And being a solution provider is being a value adder. And when you're a value adder, you're a generator of wealth. of money, of opportunity, of all of that. So staying in that positive side, but that practical preparation is key. And I want to give a couple of questions that I think might help everyone on the call, because these are in our programs as well. Like this is, I can tell you 100%, this is why the Unbound Blueprint exists. You know, Women to Wealth Method came first, but the Unbound Blueprint is really coming from a place of, how do we help women actually practically build choice, build sovereignty, not just talk about and hope for it. Like we got to connect some dots. There's some things that we need to be thinking about. So 2 questions to write down. I hope that this helps everyone, but this is what I wrote down to go back to. And they're kind of auditing questions. 1, where am I dependent? And again, this is in the Unbound Blueprint. It's one of the steps, because you got to figure out, it's like putting the puzzle together, right? We got to work out the pieces that we're missing. Where am I dependent in my life? And is it risky dependence, right? Like, is it I have one income and it's pretty fragile, it's not in my control? Is it that I live in the city area, I don't have a lot of access to really just healthy, good food? And, you know, I remember seeing last time when the shelves got empty. Okay, I'm kind of a little bit fragile there. I'm too dependent on maybe big corp or something like that. Am I dependent on having only one bank account, only one currency? I remember the last trip when we did the Women to Wealth yacht trip, and I was in Greece when it happened. I woke up and our Women to Wealth bank account had been frozen because there was some transfer that they couldn't account for. So the bank just froze it. Now, luckily, both Jen and I were like, well, look, that's okay. We can still pay our team and have the business operate. But it took a month. It took me having to get back to Australia, physically walk in the bank. I closed down that account. And yeah, we had other accounts, but am I also operating with just one currency being fiat? And what does that really look like over the next little while? You know, are you operating the decentralized finance space? And again, these are all the steps that we give in the Unbound Blueprint. So overall, the big question is, where am I dependent in my life? And is it risky? Right? Because one of the ways that Jen and I speak about sovereignty from a practical level is reducing single points of failure. So one job, one income, one currency, one way that you get your food, one. And it's like, yeah, but do you control it or someone else does? So we want to be able to make sure that we're not fragile. The second question I wrote down was, yes, Colin agrees. The second question I wrote down was, where am I leaking? And I think this is to what you were saying, Warren, in the sense of go back to basics. This is where we need to audit our time. We need to audit our money. We need to audit where we're putting our resources into. Do we need to be doing some of those things right now? Or do we need to redirect some of our resources, being time, money, skills, energy, network, like all of the resources that we have, into more of a practical preparation for where we're at right now? So they're the 2 questions that I have, and I'd suggest write them down and ask them. You know, ask yourself, where am I dependent? Where am I leaking?
It's a good
How do
question.
I redirect this, and how do I rearrange this? I'm going to unmute, and Jen, Warren, if anything else you want to add, just because the little man's getting a little bit.
I love that. I love that. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Yep. No, I love that, Nicole. It's such a good question about the dependent, because you probably worded it better than what I was trying to say. Like, because we all have things that give us security. Like for me, I've just accepted I'm a very structured guy. And if I'm not structured, I get insecure. And like once I accepted, for example, in my structure that I had a vulnerability with my health, and rather than kind of being all over the place and at a plan, I was able to move forward. And my plan involved everything from you know, getting back into discipline, all that kind of stuff. Because I realized I was very dependent with my health. I realized that with my finances, years ago, I was very dependent at one stage upon basically a physical business and flying around the world. And I realized that 12 years ago. And I remember thinking, shit, I'm in trouble. And it all came about from a conversation, or an argument I had with a friend who was adamant that my business was very vulnerable. And my ego didn't like hearing that. But eventually I realized he was right. And I took some radical action based on what someone else told me, but said, assume you're in crisis, even if you're not, and you never will be. He said, most people pretend life is fine, ignore the signs, and then crisis hits them and it's too late. So that's a good statement to write down. So ignoring the signs, I personally think there's a real risk we're heading for a crisis right now. So you definitely want to go, okay, let's plan on the assumption that the shit's going to hit the fan, okay? Let's just accept on the assumption that everything's going to hit the fan. World War III is going to happen. There's going to be fuel shortages. There's going to be rationing. In 3 months' time, it'll be an absolute shit show. Okay, so how do I prepare? Where am I dependent? Okay, you might decide, right, I'm going to cut down my reliance on external food and start growing my own food more if you've already got it. Or I might team up with some local farmers or and do some stuff for them. Or I might simplify my life and get myself a bike. Or I might start walking a lot more again rather than just automatically jumping in the car. You might go with finances, right? Let's just kind of cut back for now until I get my income sorted out, cut back my expenses, thin everything down, really invest my money in stuff that's going to get good results. Like I'm paying really good money for business coaching because I know right now I've got to adapt because AI is going to replace so many things. I've been shocked at what ChatGPT and AI can do now. I've been able to do part-time trading and betting, and I'm finding that AI can basically go through, analyze everything for me, get all the data entry, all the stuff I used to outsource. I don't need to use it anymore. I'm about to move stuff onto managing my emails, managing everything else. So definitely the dependence. And I'm not just talking about finances. I'm talking about everything. Because at the end of the day, we did a study recently. I just did a retreat down here in Bali with 7 clients on wealth alchemy and living a meaningful life. And the big 3 that I said to everyone is health, wealth, and love and meaningful connection. So I asked everyone to rank in order what was most important in order. Universally, all 6 of the 7 people said the same thing. Number 1 was health. Number 2 was love and connection. And number 3 was wealth. So I said to them, if you could only have 2 of these 3 things, what would you have? And everyone, except for one person who was a man, said health and love, because they said, we could have health and money, but without love, we'll be miserable, and connection. We could have love and connection and money, but if we've got bad health, life is also miserable. If we've got great health, lots of love, great community, but we're a bit short of money, it's annoying because it limits choices, but we can adapt to that. And we see that I see that in Bali, where people have a lot less money than Australians, and overall I think they're happier. No question that they're happier here. So it's good to be your dependents. Make sure you've got your support networks. Make sure you've got your friends. Make sure you've got your health strategy. I cannot say strongly, that's your biggest dependence. Everything should base around that, number 1. Your spiritual strategy, your purpose. Your number 2 then is about your finances. And on your finances, you want to have a defensive and aggressive strategy. The defensive is to protect what you've got. The aggressive is, are there ways I can create new streams of income and wealth or business in the midst of this world change? And the answer is, oh my God, there's so many opportunities that are arising, so many. And
Warren,
yep.
Warren, let's just sit on that one, because as you've been talking, I've been thinking about, there's so many people at the moment really concerned about the increased costs. So interest rates are going up, fuel costs are going up. The increase in fuel costs is just going one place, and that's to the end consumer. So expecting 20 to 30% increase in just basic food in the short term. And yet, probably since World War II, in most first world countries, we haven't really done it tough. And so I think this is a great time to talk about, remind ourselves that we have more capacity and more ability in us. And so we may have lived our life so far thinking that 8 hours is a good work day, but we may be coming into a season where we need to work 16 hours a day. We need to get a second and a third job. And some people are going to wait until they're hungry before they go and try and get a second and third job, and there aren't going to be those jobs available. Other people are going to go and secure those jobs now because they know they don't have a buffer and they need to get a buffer. So it's not the time to sit there and go, oh, I'm just going to wait another month and see what happens. It's the time now to get more income coming in, because you are going to need it. So if your expenses are, you know, they're going to increase by 30% very, very soon, do you have that money? Do you have that income to cover that? If you don't, I don't know, the town I live in, there's plenty of jobs around. There's not enough people who want the jobs. Are you able to, I know you're able to, but are you mentally able to consider 16-hour days for the next 6 or 12 months? It's not going to kill anyone to work 16-hour days. Plenty of people have done it for a long time. And the sooner we accept that we're entering that season where we need to put our foot on the gas, the sooner we're going to make sure that we're okay. So I just wanted to, and, you know, as you were saying, Warren, so there's like quickly increase the income stream, not like, oh yeah, I don't think I'd like working at that cafe. I'm not sure if I'd, you know, I'm probably going to end up doing dishes. Like it's not the time for that. It's the time to go, is it a job? I'll take it. Is it extra income? I'll do that. And as you were saying, Warren, you know, people are saying, one of the lovely ladies had in the a question, should we be taking our money out of the bank or some of it? You know, there are those moves that we can make as well. And there are people who are realizing for the first time that they need something to change. The most frustrating thing I think about humans is most humans don't change until the pain is great enough. Well, guess what this opportunity is right now? The pain is getting great enough. People are getting scared. People are feeling finally uncomfortable enough to open up their eyes and realize they're going to have to take some different actions if they don't want to be imploded in upon. And this is an opportunity, because when people are uncomfortable, when people are finally ready to change, guess what? Their ears open up, their eyes open up. They're more willing to listen. They're more willing to see that maybe they need a change of direction, and maybe you can guide them towards that change of direction. And so all of that, there's magic happening at the same time. And I just want to remind you all that you have more in you than you are giving out right now. You have more capacity, and these are the times in the world. And I wish, you know, imagine, I think back to World War II, and I think back to World War I, and I imagine that, and I've heard stories, most people sat there going, oh, it's not going to come to my country, or I'm not going to be affected, until it was on top of them, right? And at the same time, it didn't. It was a world war, but it didn't affect everyone. Some people were completely unaffected. Some people are no longer here. That's how affected they were. We just don't know. But some people left countries because the war came to them and they didn't want to stay there, and they were able to leave. Others were unable to leave. Some were pre-prepared. Some were unprepared. We get to choose who we're going to be. It's up to us. It's not up to anyone else. The choice is all ours. So if you know you're short on cash flow, will you go tomorrow and get a second job? Or start selling the product that you know you can sell if you want to, and create extra income stream? How will you put your foot on the gas? And what you're going to find is you're going to remember how strong you are. You're going to remember how capable you are. You're going to remember that you have more in the tank to give. So, Warren, Ange had a question, which I thought you might be able to help with. Are you still there, Warren?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep. So Ange just was wondering what you feel is going to happen with the banks. And actually, I think Dawn was concerned about banks as well. What do you think is going to happen with the banks with interest rates and home loans?
God. Well, again, it's a hard one, but generally, I mean, this is what Robert Kiyosaki said in his article. He said everything gets affected by this. Markets start crashing. The world goes volatile, crazy with assets. I I know they're talking about basically cutting the capital gains tax discount to 25% in Australia, and basically in stopping negative gearing. Look, I'm going to be fair to the government. I can understand why they're thinking of doing that. I mean, Australia, unfortunately, tend to react in the worst way, like how to solve the fuel crisis. Let's punish the petrol stations who are putting the price up rather than bring rules upon panic consumers. And but the problem with that is that all that will do is dry up more property investment and improve and make the rental crisis a lot worse, and things like that. And people will become a bit nervous maybe about buying property or things like that. And the supply of housing in terms of investors going into the market can dry up. So it's honestly, I think a lot will depend upon the budget. And it will depend on whether we go into recessionary times, which is what they're saying may happen. If it goes into recessionary times, normally home loan rates drop, so to speak. And if people get nervous about borrowing because of all this and stuff like that, unless money's coming in from overseas and they relax the foreign investment review, which they could, if anything, it's possible interest rates could actually drop. You know, that's kind of my very unconfident opinion, you know. But if anything, interest rates could drop.
Warren, it's Ange. So good to see you and your sexy body. I've been following your journey. I've been having some really cool conversations with some big financial people. I was just over in Puerto Rico and we're having these conversations about what's going on in the world. And I was reading something I think Robert Kiyosaki wrote the other day about property. And I'm curious your take around whether you see like a lucrative silver lining and an advantage in a crisis. Like we know a lot of millionaires and things pop in crisis times for those that make smart decisions. And, you know, for the first time in a long time, I'm actually thinking of borrowing money and buying an acreage because the banks are a little bit more lenient with their borrowing on rural property at the moment with this pending crisis. And a lot of, you know, my accountant and I were having a conversation the other day and he's like, it's a great time to buy. You know, people will make money on rural type properties in these type of times. And so I was just wondering your take on any silver lining or positive that you've seen as a pattern in these types of...
Oh, look, I mean, there's no question that many crises make many millionaires and billionaires, and the AI thing will do that. And there's no question with property opportunities. My honest take at the moment, it's too early to say where we're at. I don't think technically we're in a recession yet. It's like cryptos. I've had people say, oh, I'm going to buy it more now. I'm like, well, every analyst that I speak to, every expert I trust, all the charts, all the AI analysis I've done suggest, if anything, cryptos have got more to drop for a little while. And there will be a time to buy up cryptos and do really well. But often when things are dropping, people are like, let's do it. It's like when people are buying and everything's going up, like, okay, the time to sell now. So the point is sometimes you just got to wait it out. And my honest answer to that is I think it's still too early to say. I think we're still waiting on a lot of things to happen. And there's no question that if we hit a real crisis in Australia and things like that, this could go up. I mean, if Australia ends up, you know, I mean, my brother-in-law, was a top financial advisor and investment analysis for the Treasury of WA for years, and he was so good at it, but they paid him probably the most ridiculous salary. He literally is one of the smartest investors I've met, the way he buys shares and his property analysis. And what he said to me a year ago is probably the wisest comment I've heard on it. He said to me, well, we all know that life goes in cycles, and the only thing we know for sure is the following. And this is, mind you, this is a very unawake guy who purely goes by numbers. He said, at some stage, property is going to drop brutally, number one. Number two, is it going to happen anytime soon? Probably not, because right now we've got such a housing immigration crisis. Number three, will that eventually change and they'll stop immigration or China will stop buying property? He goes, at some stage, yes, and then it will drop brutally. He goes, when will that happen? He goes, I really don't know. If war happens and a whole lot of people die, then suddenly there's less people to buy properties. You know, there's so many variables. And I know this is sounding a bit crazy, but this is, if you go through cycles of 500 years rather than even 50 years, this is what happens, you know, like, I mean, we've seen unusually unprecedented property boom in Australia for pretty much 50 years solid, or really at least 35 years solid since the 90s, but really probably since the 70s, pretty unprecedented boom, and certainly since the early 90s. At some stage, that's going to change. When, I don't know. Every chance it will keep going up in the next little while. So right now, it's too early to say. All I can tell you is that all the high net worth I've known are selling more Australian properties and buying them, number one. They're tending to buy more overseas than in Australia. And so I'm not saying they're right, but this is what I'm observing. Hedge fund managers who I know, one guy here who's made millions for his clients, he's staying away from a lot of property except in very limited places. He's staying more towards cash, gold, silver, and very safe bonds. And whereas 3 years ago, he was investing quite hard and heavily and doing really well. So this is what I'm noticing. And they're also the same thing. It's too early to say. Right now, it's just waiting it out and taking defensive. And it's a good time to get defensive. The best guidance I could give you is make sure you've got cash and you've got liquid assets ready for when opportunities come, because they will come. And when they come, they're going to be really good. Like, you're going to suddenly see stupid prices for cryptos, like we saw with oil, for example, or stupid price for gold, or a panic, or suddenly some stupid price on something where everything's crashed on shares, like on a discount. So you are going to get some massive opportunities. I just don't think we're there yet. That's my take on it. We're not there yet. We don't know. Does that help?
Awesome. Yeah, so good, Warren. I think what I get from that is thinking about it from, if we go, how do we tie that in a bow? It's the tighten up where you're leaking. So tighten up where you're leaking resources right now, so that you can put those resources into creating your next opportunity. It's like put your foot down on opportunity and tighten up the leakage on what is not necessary right now. Like, if we play the game like that, I think that's where we position ourselves really powerfully. Okay, to just put a bit of a wrap on this, as we're hitting the 1 hour mark, I've loved this conversation. I think it's been another really just great call, questions, perspectives, different things for all of us to consider. And I just want to leave you with remembering that, you don't build sovereignty when things go wrong. You build it so that when things go wrong, you're okay. That's the point. And I'm just going to bring up, I know we do this particular offer with Women to Wealth and with Warren at Global Wealth Club for this call every single month. If you're going, well, what's my next step? How do I stay in this conversation? And how do you stay guided, implementing the right things? Well, first you got to be in the room, and we need to, we speak about this a lot, unlearn what you don't need and learn what you do need to be able to move forward. And I'm going to bring this up here. Let me know if this does show, just because I didn't do a test beforehand. And if not, this will get sent out in the email. But what we have done is we've combined the Unbound Blueprint, which is a Women to Wealth course. It's our most practical course. So the Unbound Blueprint is really about practical freedom in inner, financial, and physical sovereignty, 3 areas of our life, but not just going, hey, what does freedom look like? That's the first thing. But then what do I need to support that? What do I need to bring it to life? And it's a lot of the things that we're talking about on this call, a lot of the practical steps. That one is lifetime access. And the reason being, I think that a lot of things in our world, principles won't change, but maybe the tactics, maybe the skills, the things that we need will. And so we want to give you lifetime access to that program. And that's in combination with your program, Warren, which is Ignite. For me, Ignite is about wealth mastery. For me, Ignite is about really learning from experts in different spaces and making sure that I'm getting the right education and becoming a little bit of an expert myself in my own way to make these decisions. So that is a 12-month membership, this is all US dollars, by the way, ladies. And with this particular offer only, so if you get both the programs together, which is the Sovereign Pathway, there is a 1-to-1 wealth check for you. And this is about your personal situation. you know, we are all in different situations, and maybe you need to chat with someone. It'll be at Global Wealth Club to look at your personal situation and your structures and your goals and your protection and what that really needs to look like. And you access that for free with this particular bundle. So you get the Unbound Blueprint and Ignite, you pay for those, but you get the one-to-one wealth check for free, and that's valued at $707 as well. So I'm going to pop up a link here, and again, we'll pop this out in email for you. So every month we do this call, if you're looking for what's my next step, the Sovereignty Pathway is next step. I don't think that that's coming up, actually. Let me know if it is, Jen. Otherwise, I'll put it in the chat section and send an email.
I can't see the link, Nick. I can just see the 854 USD. Oh, yeah, there's the link.
There we go. Perfect.
So you can just click
That's
on
great.
Get Started and it'll open up for you.
So you get that for half the price, which is awesome. And I do want to say, I know a lot of you, I see a lot of faces who are already in the Unbound Blueprint. No, do not pay for it twice. Email us and we'll give you access to the Ignite program and the wealth check, because you're already in the Unbound Blueprint. But if you are not, then that's your next step as well. Jen, Warren, anything that you'd love to add just to close out on this month's call?
Oh, look, for me, just as a starting point, that, yeah, look, this is definitely the time to be taking action of some kind. And if you like what you've heard, then yeah, look, I mean, being part of a community is really, really important. I'd love to have calls with people who are serious about doing stuff. I really enjoy that. So if you're in a situation where you're like, yeah, I really do want to secure my wealth and get some practical mentoring steps with what I'm doing, like I do that myself, and get some guidance on the structuring, even on all areas of life with health, getting a plan together, I'd love to talk to you. The Ignite offer that Nicole just showed you, that's kind of working together, where our Ignite program will educate you. We do regular events and teaching to help you. But also, yeah, look, we do one-on-one. I do one-on-one sessions or mentoring programs with people to really help you go to the next stage and really put a plan in place of your wealth, your structures, your finances, your personal life, getting a awakening and getting all three areas of your life sorted out. So working in conjunction with Women to Wealth, giving a more practical step. I kind of enjoy that stuff, sitting down, doing the one-on-ones or the small group stuff. So yeah, look, if anyone wants that, please, start off by the offer. And once you do that, we can always talk more about that. But I'd love to work with you more.
Awesome. Thank you, Warren, so much. And, I think there's a little bit to be said in closing just about peace of mind and knowing that that's what I love about your Ignite program is it's all just laid out. There's all the videos, understanding asset protection, tax minimization, all the different types of structures, all of the options. And so many women, like ladies in general, we're really bad at this stuff. We just kind of like, oh, that's boring, and we don't really want to learn that. And so it's really nice to have someone who's put it all together on a platform, and we can take our time. I would suggest don't take too much time right now and just get it done. No Netflix, do Ignite program instead, and just get through those modules and the peace of mind that you glean. Because if you go through that Ignite program, you will become in the top 5% of people in terms of your financial education and your financial literacy, and you'll instantly find yourself making different decisions and seeing the world in different ways and seeing different opportunities and understanding how to pivot, how to change the course of your sales when you need to. And so instead of seeing events happening and just it creating angst and anxiety, you have a really firm foundation and you have principles that guide you instead of emotion just spinning you all over the place. So love your program, Warren. Love your guidance. You've personally saved me in the millions of dollars. since I've known you in the last, I don't know, what is it now? 6 years, actually. 6 years. Wow.
I think 5 years,
Oh,
actually. 5 years now. Gosh, it's
Yeah, it was
pretty
around
good.
COVID. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've absolutely really helped me so much, and so
Thank you.
I really encourage everyone to jump into your web of support, because it's nice. It's a good
Well,
thing
you
to
take
do.
action, Jen. That's what I like about you. So it makes it easy when someone listens, takes actions, and gets stuff done. You know, makes it very easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And action feels good, right? Sitting, worrying, it just doesn't feel good. It's when we get in action, when we get hot and sweaty, when we get the thing done that we didn't feel like doing, that's when we get the fist pump, and we just feel better. And if there's one thing that's going to help us through the next little while, it's being in action. Because when we're busy in action, in good action, we're too busy to be thinking and dreaming up crazy things. Just before we close, I just want to let you know, in a couple of weeks, I haven't got a date set, Nick and I are going to do a really positive reframe session on everything that's going on, because what's really important is when the world is crazy, we still remember how to dream, and we still remember how to set goals, and we still remember how to plan for the future. And I think this is the time where people really want to shrink and forget how to do that. But we can achieve incredible things, because as a couple of you have said, including Warren on this call, that this is a time of so much opportunity, and people are going to create incredible wealth in the next, 1, 3, 5 years. And so we really want to help you get in a space of being able to do that. It's not all doom and gloom, ladies, but it is really time to put our pedal to the metal and get into action, educate ourselves, get into the right communities. Nothing's more important. As you said, Warren, health and then loving connection. We need to be connected to the right people to support us through these times, and we will come out the other side better than before it all started. So Warren, thank you so much again for your time, your wisdom. I really missed your hat today. I'm not sure if you left that one in Australia or something.
I did. I left it behind.
Yeah, I did notice that it was missing. Anyway, hopefully you can have that with you for next month, the end of next month.
Rest assured, I'll make sure what I do.
And let's see what April brings. I mean, you kind of go, how could it be more saucy than March? But who knows what's ahead, right? But we'll be back at the end of April to chow down on what crazy things have happened in this world. So
Yeah,
thank you all
100%.
so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Awesome.
Bye then.
Thanks, Warren. Thanks, Lise.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.